For my children, I did what I had to do. My family left Honduras when they killed the Sandinistas. Followed a coyote through the dust of Mexico. And every one of them, except for me, survived. And I am still alive.
I was a healer. I was gifted as a girl. I laid hands upon the world. Someone saw me sleeping naked in the noon sun. I heard of witchcraft in the whispers, and I knew my time had come. The bastards hung me at the Salem gallows hill, but I am living still.
She was a freedom rider when we thought the South had won. Virginia in the spring of '61. She sat down on a greyhound that was bound for Mississippi. Her mother asked her if that ride was worth her life. When the shots rang out, she never heard the sound, but she is still around. And she'll take that ride again and again and again and again and again.
I was a preacher. My heart broke for all the world. But preaching wasn't right just for a girl. In the summer I was baptized in the mighty Colorado. In the winter heard the hounds, and I knew I had been found. And in my Savior's name I laid my weapons down, but I am still around. We're the highwaymen. We sing our stories still untold. We harry the sons you can only hold. We are the daughters of the silent generations. You sent our hearts to die alone in foreign nations, and they return to us as tiny drops of rain, but we will still remain. And we'll come back again and again and again and again and again. And we'll come back again and again and again and again and again. And we'll come back again and again and again and again and again. And we'll come back again and again and again and again and again.
Hey, lovely, lovely. Morning, everybody.
Good
Happy Sunday
morning.
to you.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Karen Sternberg.
I'm David Ian Lee, and we're your hosts on today's episode of Sunday Assembly Nashville.
Before we get too far underway, we'd like to share with you the directions on doing closed captioning if you're joining us in Zoom. So take a look at your screen. That's so you can see us live captioned. If you're in YouTube, there should be a captioning feature there as well.
And if you're joining us in Zoom, there's still time to participate in our polls. You can go to menti.com, MENTI.com, and put in the code 70243693, 70243693. Participate in our various polls today.
You can also do that if you're on YouTube. Just, go online and do it. We want to see all the answers.
Well, unless they're watching this like late at night and it's already happened hours in the past.
Too late. You missed the boat. Too late.
Way to go, everybody.
Welcome again. So
We want to introduce Sunday Assembly to those of you who are joining for the first time. Sunday Assembly is a secular congregation that celebrates life.
Our motto is to live better, help often, wonder more. Our mission is to help everyone find and fulfill their full potential, and our vision is a godless congregation in every town, city, and village that wants one.
The Sunday Assembly has 10 tenets, and we have a few favorites that we wanted to share with you. The first is that it's 100% a celebration of life. We were born from nothing and we go to nothing, so let's enjoy it together. It also has no doctrine. We have no set texts, so we can make use of wisdom from all sources.
We have no deity. We don't do the supernatural, but we won't tell you that you're wrong if you do. And we are radically inclusive. Everyone is welcome, regardless of their beliefs. This is a place that is open, full of love and acceptance.
We won't tell you how to live, but we'll try to help you do it as well as you can. And remember the first point, we are a celebration of the one life we know that we have.
Today's theme, every Sunday has a theme. This Sunday is storytelling. I think the title of the piece today is I've Got a Story to Tell, which is really exciting.
Our guest speaker is Shawn Whitsell, who is a friend of ours and is just a tremendous human being. So we're really excited to hear him speak today.
You are in for a treat. We'll also hear a reading from Gwen Brown and a Trying My Best from Gareth D.
Plus all kinds of great music, as per usual.
And you get to look at our two mugs for a little bit here and there. Hey, Karen.
Hi, David.
Jesus. Hey, let's talk about storytelling. Why do they matter? Do we care? Are they important? Of course they are. I'm asking a hypothetical question. What's the deal with stories?
It's funny because we've been thinking a lot about storytelling since we were told we were hosting this week with the theme about storytelling. And one of the things that I have found most curious very recently is the impact storytelling is having on all of our daily lives when it comes to the pandemic. So of course, we're inundated with data from the CDC, from the FDA, from the government, from the state level. It's a lot of data, it's a lot of information, and it's sometimes hard to figure out what's what. I'm not an epidemiologist. I trust the epidemiologist, but data's data, and it's black and white. What is so fascinating is the impact storytelling is having, particularly in this latest surge of COVID cases. We're hearing stories more and more. People are saying, I'm in the hospital, I wasn't vaccinated, hear my story. And I'm finding news sources are really relying on those stories to get the word out and maybe move the needle a little bit. And so I think that's really relevant to what we're talking about today.
And we're seeing that right now, but I think you can see that always and across time, how we relate to complicated or personal moments or stories. You know, we gravitate towards the story of Anne Frank because the story of this one person, this one girl, is just, you can get your hands around that in a way. The monstrosities of the Holocaust are just too large to grapple with in the meta, in the macro. Or you think about last summer and the murder of George Floyd is one individual, one story, and that can center an awareness in a way that endemic violence is just too large or too big to really grapple with. And this happens in lighter fare too, right? If you want to watch a movie, you might read some reviews, you might look at some aggregators, but the thing that's probably going to move you is you go and talk to someone that you trust and that you love and say, hey, what did you think? And they'll tell you their story of experiencing that thing. And by bringing things down to the personal and focusing on the emotional personal narrative, that just moves people in a way all the data in the world rarely does.
On a related note, we see this also in our charitable giving. So an organization can tell us all about their budgets and their spending and their programs, but it's really the stories that move us to give. We run a small theater company in Nashville, and we partnered a couple of years ago with an organization called End Slavery Tennessee. And what they wanted was a dramatization through monologues of the various women and families that they have helped over the years. And what they found was that by putting these stories on stage at their annual fundraiser, it was one of their most successful fundraising drives in years. And so that's just another demonstration of the power of stories to move people.
And this isn't, us. Well, this is us pontificating in this exact moment.
It's what we do.
It's what we do. But you can trace this all the way back. You take a look at like Aristotle writing about how stories are formed, borrowing from the Egyptian mysteries, right? This idea that linear experience is how we learn, right? You can tell someone, don't touch the stove. But it's not until they experience that story of the stove is hot, I touched the stove, I got burned, that experience of change becomes more impactful than all the information in the world. So I like stories. They help us to become better people. They help us to live better. And hey, stories help us live better, help often, and wonder more.
So we're going to transition into our first poll question, which is, what was a favorite story from your childhood? Because of course, stories for us go all the way back to when we were kids. And we're looking at your answers now.
Hansel and Gretel, always a favorite.
Tailybone. I got to talk to somebody about Tailybone. I've never even heard of that.
Someone says, when I was 3, I went out to play and fell in a hole. Oh, it went away. Filled with wet concrete for a house foundation. And I was covered head to toe. Oh, wow.
Well, I bet that person steers clear of concrete.
Who's the nerd who wrote Star Wars? Wow.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that's so meaningful here is how stories impact us when we're young and then they stay with us over time. And really great stories, they do work generationally. They can work when we're very, very young and they stay with us into adulthood. And hopefully they become those foundational myths and legends that help us to be the better people we hope to be.
And now let's transition into the reading.
Oh, let's do just that. Here we are about to have a reading from Gwen Brown. Gwen, we would love to hear your reading.
Good morning, everybody. Today's reading is a poem called The Teller of Tales by Gabriela Mistral. When I'm walking, everything on earth gets up and stops me and whispers to me, and what they tell me is their story. And the people walking on the road leave me their stories. I pick them up where they fell in cocoons of silken thread. Stories run through my body or sit purring in my lap. So many they take my breath away. Buzzing, boiling, humming. Uncalled they come to me. Untold they still won't leave me. The ones that come down through the trees weave and unweave themselves and knit me up and wind me round until the sea drives them away. But the sea that's always telling stories, the wearier I am, the more it tells me. The people who cut trees, the people who break stones, want stories before they go to sleep. Women looking for children who got lost and don't come home. Women who think they're alive and don't know they're dead. Every night they ask for stories, and I return tale for tale. In the middle of the road, I stand between rivers that won't let me go, and the circle keeps closing, and I'm caught in the wheel. The riverside people tell me of the drowned woman sunk in grasses, and her gaze tells her story, and I graft the tale into my open hands. To the thumb come stories of animals, to the index finger stories of my dead. There are so many tales of children, they swarm on my palms like ants. When my arms held the one I had, the stories all ran as a blood gift in my arms all through the night. Now, turned to the east, I'm giving them away because I forget them. Old folks want them to be lies. Children want them to be true. All of them want to hear my own story, which, on my living tongue, is dead. I'm seeking someone who remembers it, leaf by leaf, thread by thread. I lend her my breath, I give her my legs, so that hearing it may waken it for me.
Thank you, Gwen.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Gwen. We are going to be heading into our guest speaker portion of today. We do want to tell those folks joining us in Zoom that after Shawn speaks, we will assign you to breakout rooms so you can have a 5 to 7 minute period of time where you can discuss what Shawn spoke about. You can discuss storytelling. You can discuss the weather, whatever strikes your fancy. But you'll have 5 to 7 minutes there. You'll get a 1-minute warning before we pull you back into this space. For those of you joining on YouTube, you'll just kind of enjoy the second poll question. Feel free to respond to that.
I imagine after hearing from Shawn, you will have some things to share and to discuss. You are in for a treat. Shawn Whitsell is a theater maker who, in addition to founding the Destiny Theater Experience, has worn just about every hat that you can in the theater. He's been recognized with the NAACP 45 Leaders Under 45 Award and the Stay on the Go 40 Under 40 Award. He is a graduate of the Nashville Peace and Justice Center Leadership Institute, the Executive Program in Arts and Culture Strategies from the University of Pennsylvania, and the Nashville New Leaders Council. And in 2020, Metro Nashville City Council elected him to the Community Oversight Board. And when he's not doing all of that, he teaches literacy through poetry in Tennessee schools as a representative of Southern Word Inc. He also happens to be a really amazing human being and someone we are lucky to call our friend. We would like for you to now welcome Shawn Whitsell.
So it was 2006, and I'm driving from my hometown of Madisonville, Kentucky to Nashville. I had a film shoot that day, and I might have been running just a little late. So my foot might have been on the gas just a little more than it should have been. And I might have been just moving a little faster than I should have been. Then a cop pulled me over. So I'm pulled over to the side. I'm barely outside of my hometown, maybe about 15 minutes. So the police officer pulls me over, and he comes to my door, and I roll down the window, and he's very nice. We have a very positive exchange, and he, asked for my license, registration, insurance, all of that, which I turned over to him. And then he goes back to his car, and he's there for quite a long time. And I'm just waiting, wondering if I'm going to get a ticket or if I'm going to get a warning, hoping for a warning. And he comes back and he says, "Sir, can you step outside the car?" And I'm like, "What?" He was like, "I need you to step out of the car." So I asked him, as I'm getting out of the car, I'm asking him what the problem is. And he tells me that he's placing me under arrest. And so I'm a little nervous. I'd never been arrested before. And I don't know why I'm being put under arrest. He told me that my license was suspended. I'm wondering how my license could be suspended. Well, he's cuffing me, but before he cuffs me, I say, "Can I call my mom?" And he either gives me his phone or he lets me use my phone to call my mom. So I call my mom and I say, "Hey, I'm being arrested. I need you to get down there as soon as possible." She instantly starts to panic. And I say, wait, we don't have time for that. I need you focused. I need you to come get me. So there's no time for emotions right now. Come get me out of jail. And so the police officer, he takes the phone and he cuffs me and he puts me in the back seat. And I had never been in the back seat of a police car. I had no idea just how cramped it is back there. So we're going back into my hometown, and I'm just sitting there with my, I'm sitting there cuffed, and I am thinking about, wow, I'm really going to jail. So as we go through my hometown, I start to think, I'm from a small town in Kentucky. I start to think, what if somebody sees me in the back of this police car? And so I instantly start hiding. So I'm getting down in the back. I don't want anyone to see me because I was embarrassed. So we get to the police station, and they do the whole booking, checking me in thing. And the guy who's working the desk says, well, you're going to go in the holding cell. And mind you, when I'm there, I'm talking, they're like, how did you end up here? They're asking me about what I do for a living and all of that stuff. And I'm telling them, oh, I work with kids. I do drama and theater. And I also work with adults with developmental disabilities and et cetera, et cetera. And so they tell me I'm going to the holding cell. And I look across and I'm like, okay, I can handle that. There's a room, there's a few benches, there's a TV, cool. So that wasn't the holding cell. When they said I was going to the holding cell, they meant a cell down the hall that was full of people. So they take me into a room, and I am given clothes to put on, stripes, actually. And I hadn't even seen stripes on anyone in prison in a long time. I saw orange jumpsuits, but I hadn't seen stripes in a long time at that point. And so I walk into the room, I walk down this long hall, and the security person opens up the door, and it was a heavy door, like a vault. And he opens it, and I walk in, and he slams it. And I'm like, wait. I need some instructions. What do I do? And I turn around slowly, and I see all these eyes peering at me. And it's really dark. There's nothing on but the TV. And I'm trying to identify an empty bed. So I slowly start to walk to a top bunk that I see, and I see this guy looking at me. He's smiling and he's chuckling. And as I'm slowly walking, very nervous, might I add, this guy's looking at me chuckling. And then when I get to his bed, I noticed that it was my uncle. It was my uncle. And that made this frightening, scary experience of going to jail more bearable for me, because somebody I knew, not that I was happy that he was there, but somebody I knew was there. And there's more to the story, but I just wanted to share that little bit, that piece with you all. My name is Shawn Whitsell, as you all know. I'm a storyteller. I've told stories through journalism, poetry, short stories, but mostly theater. And I work with young people, teaching them poetry, spoken word, teaching them literacy through the power of poetry and spoken word. I teach them that it is important for them to tell their stories and why it is important to do so. Can anybody tell me why, and I want to make this interactive. Anyone tell me, why do you think it's important to tell your story? And you can put that in the chat if you want, as I'm talking. One thing about telling your story is that it brings, as David and Karen said earlier, it allows you to it brings you together with people. Oftentimes I go into schools and I hear students tell their stories, and none of their friends have experienced, and they think none of their friends have experienced that horror or experienced whatever it is that they experience, that they hold so closely, that they bury inside. But as they tell their stories, they find out, oh, this person experienced what I experienced. This person had parents that divorced as well. This person saw his dad go to jail as well. This person experienced the death of his grandmother as well. And now I feel closer to that person because I know what they've been through. They know what I've been through, and we have that commonality that we didn't know we had. So it's important. I see things in the chat like to create a relatability. I see to feel seen, shared experience. All of those things are all true. All of those things are true. So it's important that we tell our stories. Think about it. I was a kid who loved sitting around adults listening to stories. I would just soak them up. When my grandmother passed away, when I was 16, I went to live with my grandfather for a brief period, and he told me story after story. And I got to know my grandparents in a new and interesting way because I got to see them as more than just my grandparents. Up until that point, they were just my grandparents. But when I got to hear my grandfather's stories, things they had experienced, things they had been through, I saw them as full human beings. And that's what telling our story does. It gives you an opportunity to see them beyond what's there on the surface. It's also important to tell your story, not just for yourself, but for other people who might, as someone put in the chat, who might feel alone, who might feel that they're unseen. I want you to take a moment right now. Think of a family story. Think of a story, whether that be something from 5 years ago or 20 years ago. I want you to think of a story a family story from your past. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share something that you all can take with you to work on post this session in case you want to tell your story, which I strongly encourage you to do. What do you think makes a good story? Tell me what you think makes a good story. Humor, I see humor, some kind of dilemma, yep, conflict, in something that's engaging. Yeah. So what makes a strong story? It's establishing a setting. Where is this taking place, right? A setting, the plot, what's happening in the story. Character, who are the characters? Conflict, right? Someone said some kind of dilemma, so that's a conflict. And then a climax, right? Those elements, and there are others, but those elements help create a good story. I'm going to read one to you. I'm going to read a story to you. And I want you to listen for all those things that we just talked about. This is a story written in poetry form. It is called Legacy by the great poet Nikki Giovanni. Her grandmother called her from the playground. Yes, ma'am. I want you to learn how to make rolls, said the old woman proudly. But the little girl didn't want to learn how because she knew, even if she couldn't say it, that it would mean that when the old one died, she would be less dependent on her spirit. So she said, I don't want to know how to make no rolls, with her lips poked out. And the old woman wiped her hands on her apron, saying, Lord, these children. And neither of them said what they meant. And I guess nobody ever does. That's Legacies by Nikki Giovanni. So in this piece, you have, what's the, if you could put in the chat, tell me what's the setting? Where does this take place? Where does the story take place? The house, yep. Somebody might say the playground. I always think the house because I think grandma's not going to come to the playground. The playground is nearby. I think that the grandmother calls the kid to her. Yeah. What's the plot? What's happening? So the grandma wants to pass on her talent. Yep, the grandmother is trying to, she's trying to get the little girl to learn how to make rolls. What's the conflict? So the little girl doesn't want to make rolls, right? Exactly. And so in this piece, you'll see the setting, you'll see quotes from both characters. You'll see conflict. You'll see it uses the physical characteristics of each character. There's an object involved, there's an action, and there's a truth. What do we think the truth of this piece is? What's the truth? No one speaks their heart, right? No one speaks their heart. So in this piece, why do you think the grandmother is trying to get the little girl to make rolls? Is it really about the rolls? To carry on her legacy, right? That's what someone put in the chat. To carry on her legacy. The grandmother is preparing the little girl, she's preparing the granddaughter for for life without her. So whether it's roles or whatever it is, she's teaching her to be the matriarch of the family. She's teaching her to carry on the legacy for the family, to take care of everyone. And so that is what legacies is about. It's about passing down tradition, about preparing this little girl for life without her grandmother. And the little girl doesn't want to face the loss. Yes, that's exactly right. Because it says that she knows that even if that she doesn't want to, she knows that if she admits to this, if she learns how to make these roles, it will make her less dependent on her grandmother's spirit. And she doesn't want to be less dependent on her grandmother. She wants her grandmother to stay forever, like we all do, right? Nice. So what I want you to do is, I want you to think of that family story. And you can start this off. I want you to jot this down. You can start this off with the words, I remember, if that helps. Or you can try it some other way, but I remember can get you started. And I want you to write a story that establishes the setting, that includes quotes, that establishes the conflict, that includes a physical characteristic of the characters, that has an object in it, that describes an action, and has a truth. The truth is like the moral of the story, right? Again, that is your setting, quotes, conflict, physical characteristic, an object, an action, and the truth. And I want you to think about what's your first line? If you start with, I remember, and then you go on to your first line, what would that look like? Because when we get into our breakout rooms, I would love for you to share your first line. And you don't have to write the entire story yet, but what would that first line look like for you? I remember, tell that story. And then I encourage you, after you've written this story, I encourage you to find a friend or a family member and tell your story to. Read the story, tell it to someone, because that's part of the reason why stories are important. Because we can tell them, we can have our shared experience. People get to know you in a deeper, more impactful way, and it brings us all closer together. So I don't know if I am over time or not. I hope I am not, but I know that I am getting close. If I'm not, if I am, but I just want to say thank you all for having me today. I really enjoy being able to speak with you about storytelling. Please continue to pass down those traditions of telling stories orally, writing stories, etc., and share them with the people that you know and love. Thank you.
Thank you so
That was
much,
great.
Shawn. That's excellent. I've got my story ready to go. Ready to go. Brilliant. Brilliant.
It is time for you all to go into your breakout rooms. So enjoy that 5 to 7 minutes.
Room. We want to thank Shawn again for that excellent presentation and that story. Those of you who are in the Zoom, you'll be able to chat with Shawn at the end of our session today. And if you're able to go to menti.com and put in that code, I'm going to put that in the chat again for those of you in the Zoom, you can participate in our second poll. That question, who has been empowered by your story? And while you're putting in your answer to that poll, you can enjoy our Trying My Best, offered to us by Gareth D, coming to us all the way from south of London this morning. Please welcome Gareth D.
Good morning, everybody. Well, good afternoon for me. I'm probably the only one on this in this time zone on this particular call. Yeah, so I'm going to tell a story about how my life got turned upside down, and how I ended up being an organizer for Sunday Assembly, kind of doing more bits of community organization, and yeah, just kind of how I got here. It's actually exactly 7 years ago this weekend I discovered entirely by accident Sunday Assembly. I was walking through it was raining at a music festival on the Sunday, and we were looking for somewhere that was dry, and I heard the sound of 1,000 people singing the theme tune to Flashdance. I thought, brilliant, that sounds like loads of fun. And so I then wandered in, pretty full tent, and there was a very tall, very bearded, very enthusiastic man, whose name I now know to be Sanderson Jones, who is extolling the joy of a secular community. And yeah, you know, I kind of thought, that's awesome. That's scratching an itch I never knew that I had. And so I found out there's one in Brighton and started going along. But at that kind of point, I really don't think I was anyone's idea of a community organizer. I was kind of in my mid-30s. I was, you know, my hobbies were drinking, dinner parties, and occasional hiking, bit of rugby thrown in, and you know, good job, but kind of a bit unfulfilled and a bit wandering through life. And yeah, I'm not very organized. I've been wrestling with depression for a chunk of my adult life. And for those who are lucky enough to be a bit more neurotypical, if you want it in audio form, I'd recommend listening to Bonnie Prince Billy's I See a Darkness, or Nick Drake's absolutely hauntingly beautiful Black Eyed Dog. In book form, kind of depression, the Dementors from the Harry Potter books were created as a manifestation of J.K. Rowling's depression. You know, incredibly vivid, incredibly powerful imagination. And yeah, it doesn't really lend itself to you doing loads of stuff. Problem is that the best thing to do if you're depressed is try and do stuff, to try and get that voice out of your head saying it's not going to work. And it's a really weird thing because it just keeps you in a box and you've got to try and get out of it. Anyway, so yeah, Sunday Assembly, not necessarily the most natural of community organisers, but I went along and it was brilliant. And it was also their annual meeting. So there's in Brighton, I don't know if you do it in Nashville, we have like one meeting a year where we vote on who's going to be on our committee, who organises it, and changes any bylaws, changes any rules, that kind of thing. And I went along and kind of they're asking for volunteers, and you know, what can I do? It's like, well, why don't you come along and just greet people on the door? And yeah, okay, that sounds good. So next time I went along, I was stood on the door I got there a bit earlier and high-fived people on the door and you know, hugged those people that were up for hugging, and it's a lot of fun. And then I kind of realized that actually this needs people to do. And to get my fun and to make sure that my fun continues, I've actually got to put a little bit more into it, because this is brilliant, but it doesn't organize itself. And so slowly I started getting a bit more involved. And then you know, it deepens it, it makes it richer, it gives you a satisfaction. You know, I'd still think that the sound after a Sunday assembly when everyone's chatting is probably my third favorite sound in all of the world. My second is obviously the tears of my defeated enemies' wives, and I'll leave you to imagine what the first one is. But that hubbub, that conversation, that chat is just a lovely thing to know that you've got involved in. And from that, I was lucky enough, I got made redundant a couple of years later. My company gave me a very large severance package, and I said, thank you very much. And went traveling for 9 months. I can confirm that the world is indeed round, having gone round the entirety of it and gained a day in the manner of Phileas Fogg. And when I got back, I was a bit bored, and there was a really lovely community event in my neighborhood where different streets take it in turns to decorate themselves during Christmas as a kind of a living advent calendar. And the person running it didn't want to do it anymore. And okay, well, I've got nothing to do, you know, I'm looking for work, but let's try and do that. And last year we had 43 streets involved. We raised nearly £1,000 for homeless charities. And crucially, and more importantly, it gave people something to do in what had been a really difficult year. It takes me maybe 10 to 15 hours total a year for that, but people make street parties out of it. People do walks around my neighborhood looking at all the streets as they're decorated. I jokingly call it the largest community arts project in Brighton, which is possibly even true. And the key thing is, like, you don't have to be brilliant. I don't believe anyone's idea of a community organizer. I am quite lazy. I am quite disorganized. But it's better that someone does it than no one does it. Because if no one's doing it, it won't happen. And, you know, if that's the one thing that's taken away from me from Sunday Assembly and all the bits and pieces that I've learned and I'm trying my best on, is essentially, yeah, you can make that difference because it's not as hard as you think. Yeah, and so I'm Gareth. I'm a bit disorganized, I'm a bit lazy, but I am definitely trying my best.
Thank you so much, Gareth.
Thank you, Gareth. I love the trying my best segment. I like
Yeah.
getting to know people, even all the way overseas. Come visit, Gareth.
Let's see the results of that second poll, shall we?
Who has been empowered by your story? Students, kids, younger family members, my clients, my son.
I love this idea that we are all of us teaching and telling stories, even when we may not realize we're doing that. What is it they say? Children are always watching, and the world is always watching. I play in Celtic bands. Saw the band I played in and band I later joined. They became a music performer and educator. Oh, that's spectacular. And me, I'm moved by me.
Mm-hmm.
We are entering into our moment of mindfulness. And obviously this is space for you to use as you personally see fit, but maybe consider in this moment, whose story are you a part of? Who is a part of your story? And who have you impacted or empowered by living your story?
everyone. Thank you. Good morning. Up until yesterday, I had planned to sing The Gambler, a great story song, right here in this segment. But change of plans. A different story song. I was asked during the breakout sessions if I wanted to share my story. I said no, because I knew it was coming up later on. Let's give it a whirl. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Girl, you can go ahead. On a warm summer's morning at a disc golf course in Brentwood, I met up with two buds of mine to play a friendly round. We took turns of throwing. I had no way of knowing the pastime that I loved so much was about to take me down. Now hole 16 is a booger with a tiny little window. Many are the bogeys if you don't hit that gap. My friend, he took his chances, but his disc caught in some branches. We knew we had to get it down or we'd all feel like crap. So I picked up a big old rock and heaved it up above me, hoping with a little luck we'd get his frisbee back. As the rock came right back at me, I tried jumping back, but sadly I busted my butt and I heard my wrist go crack. You got to know when to retrieve 'em, know when to leave 'em, know when to walk away. Cut your loss and run, just be glad you're still kicking. And admit you're no spring chicken, or you'll be sitting on the sidelines till the healing's done. Hallelujah for the morphine they gave me at the ER. The doctor showed me x-rays as I grinned from ear to ear. My wrist was bent and gory, so they asked me about my story, and I rattled off the details just like I was thinking clear. The nurse came in to tell me we gotta start an IV. Shot me up with propofol and I went to La La Land. Don't know how much time went past, but I woke up with a cast. Now here I am a-playing, thanks to my right-hand man. So you didn't hear the gambler, instead you got a rambler, trying to find a way just to make the show go on. A storytelling codger, a tangle-footed dodger who learned a costly lesson and wants to pass it on. You got to know when to retrieve 'em, know when to leave 'em, know when to walk away. Cut your loss and run, just be glad you're still kicking. And admit you're no spring chicken, or you'll be sitting on the sidelines till the healing's done. You'll be sitting on the sidelines till the healing's done. Thank you much. We should repeat it and have everyone sing along. Now, maybe next time. Thank you.
Wow.
Stephen, I hope part of the healing process is not having to hold your arm up over your head the entire time.
Well, it does help. It does help. It feels better. So
that's one of the best things I've seen in a long time. I'm sorry it came at the expense of your arm, but that was pretty remarkable, both of you.
How can something simultaneously be so horrible for you and so wonderful for all of us? I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so delighted to have heard that.
So who benefits from this story? Oh.
There you go.
We all did.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to be laying on that call button. Honey, I need some more coffee. Honey, could you bring a snack? Can you come fix my pillow? I haven't done this one yet. I better not say it. That's a bad picture. I don't.
Run, Georgia, run.
Yeah.
Wow.
Honey, I've got to
Wow.
take a shower. Uh-oh.
Thank you so much.
PG.
Incredible. Hey, as amazing as that storytelling song was, you can now, all of you, contribute to our next poll. Again, you can see the slide up there, but you can also visit menti.com and tell us your favorite storytelling song. It may well be this new version of The Gambler, as it were. Wow. Wowza. I think it's time for announcements. Is it time for announcements, Karen? Let's make some announcements. Hey, one announcement that you will not see populated on screen, but that you should know about is that board elections are coming round the corner. They'll be in November. And you can contact Jeannie Butte if you would like to know more about the board elections in November.
And then Loie, let's hit up some announcements.
Yay!
Let's do it. So please contribute to Sunday Assembly. It's completely volunteer led. And boy, let me tell you, there is a lot of work that goes into putting up one of these things, not because I do the work, but because I've seen it in action and it's remarkable. You can become a sustaining member. So they call it Set It and Forget It, which is what I do with my hair, clearly. So you can have a recurring monthly donation. You can also just make a one-time donation. Anything is appreciated.
You can follow the link, or you can use the little QR code, or use your PayPal to get that done. Also, if you would like to get involved, some folks you should know about. Head of production is Jason Panks. Music is Stephen Phelps. The Live Better Committee is Brenda Quinn. Help Often Kate Turner. Wonder More is Josh Brown. And promotions, Tom Kanesh. Please reach out if you would like to get involved.
So we're looking for some people to do some design work for the next two Sunday assemblies. So if you do art, if you have art that you think would fit into the thematic material for September and October, reach out. September is Coping with Disappointment, and October is Decolonizing and Indigenous Peoples Day. So lots of art options there.
Obviously, both of these topics very much topical and on point. October due to the day as indicated, and September because here we are online continuing to cope with our disappointment. But glad to be here in this virtual space with you. And you can join us on social media, if you would please. Hashtag Sunday Assembly Nashville. Hashtag, sure, why not?
You know.
Hashtag or hashtag SAN and hashtag community. And we are on Twitter. We are on Discord, newly on Discord, also Instagram and Facebook.
Wow, were those all the announcements? I feel like we cruised right through them.
I think we did. We announced quickly.
Oh, no, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
There's a picnic in the park on the 28th. Check out the meetup site for information about that. Nashville Pride. Oh man, we've done that. It's so much fun. September 18th, Nashville Pride show out for Sunday Assembly. That would be great. And like we said, the next Sunday Assembly will be Coping with Disappointment. It will be online. So, just to add to the theme, cope with your disappointment. The lovely Brenda Quinn will be the speaker and the host.
Not a disappointment. Not a disappointment in the slightest.
No, that would be amazing if it was like a really disappointing host. you got to cope with your disappointment. But that was Brenda's amazing. So please do tune in for that.
Yeah, that'll be on September 12th. So do not miss that.
Now, did we get through them?
I think we did. And
this
if not,
is a really weird experience. We're kind of like in this weird vacuum, and I hope people are watching, but it could be just us talking to ourselves. So here we go.
It's all a prank.
Here are the poll results. Name your favorite storytelling song. Ooh, it's scrolling. There are so many responses.
Stephen has made the charts in multiple places, which is fabulous. Ludwig by Joni Mitchell.
Ooh, Starry, Starry Night, Donna Clayton. Nice.
Oh, Thriller made the charts. Yeah, man, absolutely.
Chelsea Hotel. I feel like we need a mix list for these songs.
Tracy Chapman's Fast Car, that was on continual repeat in my not so fast car when I was in college. Love that song.
This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing. And if
You-
anyone wants to volunteer to put together a Sunday Assembly storytelling song mix list,
Yeah, I think we need a Spotify list.
I will subscribe.
yeah.
I'll subscribe to that.
We're so glad that you've welcomed us in to host and be a part of this Sunday Assembly. We've talked so much about how our stories impact other people and how the stories we tell can move other people, but we're also moved by our own stories as we live them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've even seen that manifest here in Sunday Assembly. We've been able to, I think, between the two of us, you've hosted once or twice, I've hosted once or twice. I've offered readings, you've offered readings. I've been able to speak a few times. And each time that we've been here, we leave with a story that educates us and informs us. I can think of 2 times. I was able to give my Star Wars speech once, and I tell the story of my Star Wars speech every chance I can get because it was just
He does.
a really wonderful morning. And I totally biffed the last bit of the slide because I didn't have in my notes this famous quote by George Lucas. Thought I could do it off the cuff and tell all my students always put quotes in your notes because I blew it. I also think about a time that I gave a speech that was, I just felt terrible. I beat myself up for like weeks after because I knew that it was tone deaf and heady and esoteric and like not valuable. And I just, you know, have vowed never to make such a mistake ever again. But you've been impeccable in how you've hosted, right?
No, I hosted once and I was rocking it. And it was, I think it was about humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I've got this. This is amazing. And I was funny and I was quirky because that's who I am. And I got to the very end and I had this joke. And the joke was going to be the very last thing that I said before I left. And I messed up the last word of the joke. And then because I was so flummoxed by it, I dropped an F-bomb in front of children.
You didn't so much drop it as throw it down.
I threw it.
Like,
I threw it down. It was a violent
You
F-bomb.
clinched and you went, ah! And it was
So,
like,
you know, even when we think our stories are going to end great, sometimes we don't always know, but we're here together now hosting for the first time and it's building a whole new story that maybe we'll tell people. I don't know.
well,
I haven't said my last word yet, so it remains to be seen how this story will end up.
we'll watch the playback on YouTube and decide exactly what story this turned out to be and whether or not we'll share it or just sit in the dark and stare at the ceiling and go, oh.
But the takeaway is your story is never set in stone.
Yeah.
It's always evolving. And if you think you've had a bad day or your story is not where you want it to be, you can always change it. That's the beautiful thing about stories.
We want to thank you for being with us today. Let's have some music to play us out.
One. All right, here we go. 2. 1, 2. Clap along. 4. Oh, never mind. I believe in good. Oh, I believe in good. I believe in being good and doing good just for goodness sake. Good makes the whole world better. Good is great, and I believe in harmony. Respect for all humanity. I believe that we will find the only truth we need. Living this one life by this one creed. I believe in good. I believe in good. I believe in good. Oh, I believe in good. I believe in being good and doing good just for goodness sake. Good makes the whole world better. Good is great, and I believe in harmony. Respect for all humanity. I believe that we will find the only truth we need. Living this one life by this one creed. I believe in good. I believe in good. I believe in good. I believe in good. Thank you, Sunday Assemblers.